Hello. So we are in our first unit of volume, and we're going to be looking at volume of cylinders first. So some vocabulary that you need. What is a cylinder? Well, I'm sure you all have seen a cylinder. I'm sure you heard it last year. I'm sure you all think you're smarter than everybody and know already what it is. But in case you don't, a cylinder is a three-dimensional figure, which means a 3D figure, that has two congruent circular bases that lie in parallel planes. So in other words, your bases are circles, and that if you were to extend your bases, they're never, ever, ever going to touch. That's what parallel is, right? They run side by side. Alright, so think of like a soup can, right? The circle on the bottom and the top, those are your bases. And then if you extended those forever and ever, those circles are never going to touch. Alright, another thing that you need to know is pi. What is pi? It's not something you eat. It represents 3.14 in math. We've all talked about this many times, but that's going to be very important because we're talking about circles. Circles, pi. We all know that circles have to do with pi. Formulas that you need to know. On your formula chart, it's going to have V is equal to big B times H, or V is equal to pi r squared times H. Now, B is pi r squared. Remember, because big B stands for area of the base. Okay, it doesn't mean base anymore. It means the area of the base. And I'm sure you all remember that from last year because we told you guys a million times. Alright, so steps. First of all, you have to use FSA. We're going to make you use FSA. There's no questions about it. So you either like it or you're going to learn to like it. Your first step is find your formula on your formula chart. You're going to see that V is equal to B, big B times H. Now, it's not going to have this formula, so we're going to need to write that eventually. All right, the next step is on the picture. If there's not a picture, you need to draw yourself a picture. You need to highlight your base and determine what shape it is. Okay, then you're going to draw an arrow up from the B and say what shape your base is and what the formula is for the area of the base. I know this doesn't make a lot of sense right now, but it will make sense when I show you an example. And then after I show you the example, that's what you should do on all the examples. Next, you're going to substitute the area of the base formula into your volume formula. Basically, for cylinders, you're going to take this and you're going to turn it into this. Alright, and lastly, you're going to simplify your expression by using the order of operations. Okay, so you're just going to solve your answer, or solve your equation for your answer. So, example number 1, we're going to follow these steps exactly. So we know we're going to use F, S, A. Alright, our formula, we know that I'm solving for the volume. So I know volume is equal to big B times H. Okay, my next step says highlight my bases. So in my picture, I'm going to highlight my bases. Alright, and I see, and it says and determine what shape it is. I see that they're circles. So it says draw an arrow up from the B, and I'm going to say what my shape is. My shape is a circle. And what is the formula for the area of the base? So on your formula chart, look. Do you see where it says, I'm looking at my formula chart in my room, where it says area and it says circle? It's at the very bottom one. And it says pi r squared. That's what I want. So now it says substitute the area of the base formula into your volume formula. So I'm going to use volume is equal to pi r squared times height. Now we need to substitute in our actual numbers. So volume is equal to pi r. R stands for radius, don't forget. Now radius is half of your circle, the half of the diameter. And I can think of it like this because it kind of can make a lowercase r. And if you were to talk about diameter, we don't want the diameter, but if we did talk about diameter, it makes a capital D. Alright, so this gave me my radius or my diameter. It gave me my diameter. Half of your diameter is your radius. So what's half of 10? Good. Half of 10 is 5 squared times the height. What's the height? The height is 6. Okay, the height will never have anything to do with your bases. Okay, even if it's not standing straight up, it's never going to have anything to do with your bases. Now it says simplify your expression by using the order of operations. So I'm going to erase this A because I don't need that A yet. B is equal to 3.14 times 25 times 6. Luckily for y'all, you have your calculators this year. So if you want to get really specific, instead of doing 3.14, do you see this little pi right here? You can't see it. It's right here on the exponent button. It's in blue. On my calculator, it might be a different number. But how do we get to it? We press second. And do you see my pi? So pi times 25 times 6. Now I can write my A. A is, the volume is equal to 471.23 inches cubed. Volume is always cubed. Do not forget to cube volume. Okay, if you want to look at putting it in a different way, you can do pi times 5 squared times 6. Exactly what I just did before, or just what this basically says right here. Press enter, and you get the same exact thing. So you can pretty much eliminate this entire step if you choose. Alright, let's look at the next one. We're going to do the same thing, F, S, and I'm going to leave some room for my A in a minute. Formula, I know I'm solving for volume again, so I'm going to write V is equal to B, big B, times H. I said to highlight your bases next, so you need to highlight your bases. Now you know your bases are two congruent circles. I'm not going to highlight this middle part because that's not a circle. This is a circle, and this is a circle, and you have two bases, so we know we're going to have to circle two things, and they're going to be opposite of each other. Okay, now this one looks different from this one now. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different kind of problem. Or not a different kind of problem. It's just flipped on its side. Alright, so draw an arrow up. I know that my base is a circle. I know this sounds tedious, but once you start getting a bunch of different shapes, you're going to want to draw right what the shape is. It's a circle, and the formula is pi r squared. Alright, then you're going to substitute pi r squared times height. Pi, what's my radius? Am I given my radius or my diameter? You are given your radius this time because your radius is half of your diameter. So pi times 4 squared times 12. Alright, now you can type that into your calculator. Pi times 4 squared. Sorry, you need to put your your radius, you always need to put it in parentheses. 4 squared times your height is 12. And your answer is 603, and I'm going to round this to 1900ths. Feet squared or cubed? Cubed. Okay. If you wanted to look at this differently, you could have done pi times 16 times 12. Okay, 3.14 times 16 times 12. Alright, go flip over on the back, please. We have two more examples, and these are word problems where we have to draw the pictures. So, a drum company advertises a snare drum that is 4 inches high and 12 inches in diameter. Find the volume of the drum to the nearest tenth. Tenth, I'm going to have 1 decimal place. Alright, well, you have to know something about drums. You have to know that they're cylindrical. So I know that it's 4 inches high and 12 inches in diameter. So I'm going to draw my circle. Okay, not perfect, but it's 4 inches high and the diameter is 12. So I know I'm finding volume, which is volume is equal to big B times H. I know that I'm going to highlight my bases next to figure out what my big B is. And my big B looks like they're going to be circles. So you draw an arrow up from your B. And you tell me it's a circle, and you tell me what's the formula of a circle for the area of a circle. The formula for area of a circle is pi r squared. Next, you're going to substitute. So, volume is equal to pi r squared times height. Then we're going to substitute our numbers in. Volume is equal to pi. What's my radius? If you put 12, you put the diameter. So it should have been 6 squared times your height of 4. If you plug that into your calculator, pi times 6 squared times 4, volume is equal to 452, and told me to round to the tenths, so I'm going to only round to 1 decimal place. Remember, we made a note about that. So find your number, look next door, is 8 5 or larger? Yes, so you're going to add one more. 452 and 4/10. Are we talking inches? Inches what? Squared, cubed, quadrupled? Cubed. Alright, so the only difference was that we had to draw a picture this time. Last but not least, a student in science class has a glass that has a diameter of 10 centimeters and a height of 24. How much liquid is in her glass if it fills halfway? Not all the way, halfway. Draw ourselves a picture. We know we have a glass that has a diameter of 10 and a height of 24 centimeters. Okay, I'm finding, if we're talking about how much liquid is in our class, that's talking about volume. So I know I'm going to do V is equal to big B times H. Highlight your bases. We know our big B is going to represent a what shape? A circle. The formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared. Substitute it in. Volume is equal to pi r squared times height. We're going to substitute our numbers in now. Pi squared times height. What's our r? 5 or 10? 7 or 8 or 24? What are we going to put? Hopefully you said 5 because the radius is 5. The diameter is 10. Tells you diameter is 10, but we want the radius. And we're going to multiply it by the height, which was 24. Plug that into our calculator. Pi times 5 squared times 24. The volume is equal to 1,884.96 centimeters cubed. Now, is that my answer? Okay, if you boxed that or you said yes, you forgot about this part. It only wants to know what the volume is if it's halfway. Well, if it's only filled, well, it's not really half, I guess it's half. Halfway, I only need to know half the volume. So I need to divide this by what? I need to divide it by 2. So 18. So halfway is going to equal 942 and 48 centimeters cubed. That's what it is, halfway. Alright guys, again, this is kind of a review from last year. You should be fairly familiar with it. If not, we'll need to talk more in class. Please write your questions that you have on the bottom of the paper, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.